Hey, Nathan here from PH Studios, and welcome back to another tutorial from the Tower Defense series. This will be the last tutorial from this series. We just need to finish things off by me giving you some of the files that the game uses currently. Now, if you created your own audio files, video, the maps, all the textures, if you created all those yourself, you can ignore this part of the tutorial. But for those of you that do not, I'm going to give you the files that I made so that you can put them in your game and it will hopefully work. Now, we're doing this in case we find a few bugs, and I want to discuss a few things along the way. Okay, so this should be the end result of the last two tutorials ago. Remember, last tutorial we just discussed a generic how do you create XML from a game engine type of thing. So we did not do any changes to the code. Okay, so what you want to do is open up the file from the last tutorial, and I'll give it to you in this tutorial as well. This will be labeled Tower Defense Episode 12. You'll open this one, then you'll do the changes I discuss in this video, and you should be set. Okay. So I'm going to give you the content, all these folders. I'm going to give you the audio files, the fonts that we should be able to use, the maps, the XML for the maps, and then all the textures that go along with everything. You know, monsters, the menu system. Let's go ahead and delete that. Maps, all the textures associated with that map. So I'm going to give you this zip, and what you want to do is open up the Tower Defense Episode 12 solution, the project file. You can open that up, and then let's scroll down on the Solution Explorer to the content portion, and let's go ahead and delete all these folders. Let's just go ahead and delete them just in case you might have something or something's already in there. We just want it to be exactly the way in this zipped file. So you'll unzip this file, and then you'll select all the folders, and then you'll drag them over to the Solution Explorer under the Content project. And then you'll release your mouse, and then we'll add them to your Content project. Now, there's a couple things we need to do once we add them in here. It'll want to the code will want to compile the audio files. We do not want that to happen. These are already compiled with the exact editor. So what we need to do is select all three of these and change it from build action, change that to none, and also copy to output directory, copy always. Do the same thing for the other two. Change it to no compile, no build action, and copy to directory always. No build action and copy always to directory. Now what we need to do is at the very top we have our TDGame implementation. That has a content reference. As of right now, that cannot be found because I changed the name of the solution, the projects. So it's looking for Tower Defense Game Implementation Content. I changed it to TDGame Implementation Content. So let's go ahead and delete that reference. Let's right-click the content reference and let's add a new one. And then that should be the only one in there, so let's just double-click it. So we removed the reference that was no longer valid, and we added the correct one. Okay. So with the way that the content system works is that we have these XMLs. It builds them, it compiles them to a XNB file. So it needs a reference. If we open up one of these, it needs a reference to the engine. So in the content project, let's right-click references, and let's add the engine. Now, the engine's project name is engine tutorial, but if we go look at the, let's say, level map, the namespace is the same as what the XML is looking for. So just because a project name is different, you just want to make sure that you have named the namespace correctly in the XML to what it is looking for in the .cs file. So remember in the last tutorial, it was in the menu screen. I think I commented out the... Yeah, right there. So it's not playing the song. So go to the menu screen, main menu screen.cs, and at the end of the initialize screen method, we commented out the audio manager. We did that because we did not have the audio system in place on my version. So I wanted to just show you the end result without having to have this line crash the program. In the same file, I'll take out this line here and uncomment this line here. Alright, so I uncomment the line where we add a screen, level selection screen, and deleted the other line where we add the pause screen. That is in main menu screen.cs. The play select method. The last thing we need to do is to open up the level selection screen.cs file. And inside there, at the very end of the else if input map.new action press select map, at the very end of that inner if block, we commented out the line screen system.add screen new play screen this comma selected map. Go ahead and uncomment that line out. Okay, so now if we press F5 and let's see what the actual gameplay does. It's actually... I'm actually going to decrease the sound as well, so... Alright, so play... Now, for testing purposes, I only made the forest map 2 waves for this video, just to see what happens. So if we press enter, at the bottom left, we see wave. That wave starts in 3 seconds, so let's place a couple towers. Let's try the buttons. Decrease speed. That seems to be working fine. Increase speed. That seems to be working fine as well. Alright, now the next wave starts in that, so let's go ahead and upgrade a tower. Now it should upgrade to basic tower 2. And it did not. And then that has an issue as well. So this is the last part of the game. You know, you build all your game, you build your engine, and then you need to test for bugs. So when we bought an upgrade, that did not seem to work fine. And the next wave... Okay, so the 2 things we know for sure are that the towers... We're not getting upgrades, however our money was being taken away. So the actual money change was actually working fine. The amount of money we put into the tower was displaying correctly, but the actual upgrade process did not happen. So we need to look at the tower's upgrade process. The next thing we need to look into is why the waves are not working right. And when you have a big game like this, you're bound to have a couple of bugs, so anticipate that. I mean, even me, when I had the code completed on one screen, actually when I built the engine, I didn't have it completed on one screen. I had it in a little window to the right, so I might have missed a couple things. And if you're building a game from complete scratch, I mean, it took me about several days worth of testing to get all the bugs worked out. So just anticipate bugs that you might run into and how to fix them. So it's a good thing we do have some bugs, because that gives me a lesson to teach you guys on how to find the bugs. Okay, so let's discuss the issue with the maps implementation, where if we finish the last wave, it'll get stuck in that wave is coming in 10 seconds and never decreasing. So for some reason, we are not getting information that the map is done to our session. So let's go ahead and look at that really quick. So that will be an engine issue. So if we open up the level, the map class, and let's scroll down past all the properties and fields, and let's look at the update method. So it is setting the state to finished, but it is not doing anything with the session. So let's go ahead and check for something quick. Okay, if we go to the session itself, go to its update method. Okay, so map.update. If map.state is equal to map_state.finished and map_finished is not equal to null. So we call map_finished this event args empty. So that's working correctly. What about our event args? So we do have a map_finished event. Now who signs up for that? So it's an issue with the play screen here. So in our map finished, session map finished, level select, activate screen. And if we do have... So for some reason that's not being called, or the level select activate screen's not working correctly. So let's add a breakpoint there and then let's check. I'm going to decrease the sound as well. Okay, so let's have a look at here. And let's let that run. Let's test launch next wave now, and that worked fine. Okay, so that is not being called. This line is not being called in the map finished. So, session.mapFinished. So the session map finished. Let's look at the map again. Map state. I'm actually going to break this into multiple lines, and I'm going to add a breakpoint here to see if it's not setting to a different state. Sometimes bugs are very hard to find. You know, you will spend a couple of hours looking for a simple issue that it turns out it was really simple to find. But it's a good thing this happened. I really wanted to do some error checking on camera, so you know what I go through when I check for errors. Let's increase the speed. Okay, so that is not being called itself. So let's add a breakpoint up here. Alright, so let's go ahead and see what this does. Alright, so that's good, that's being called. Let's click continue because we're not done yet. I'll launch the next wave. Alright, so that should be the last wave. So wave index is 1. Count is 2 minus 1. So it should go there. Ah, so that's the issue. Endless is currently... The endless is what we have set our map as. So that's an error on my part for giving you the XML that has endless is equal to true. So let's go down here. Inside the XML, endless, change that to false. Alright, let's launch the next wave now. Okay, so that calls the session. It is finished, so let's go ahead and click continue, the little play. And that called the activate screen, so let's play again. Alright, so there we go. That was the issue. It was just the XML. So that's the kind of process you need to look into, is what's the issue here? When we actually finish the map, what's going on in the code, and it was changing the wave index to 0. Because it was an endless, but the endless had a bug to where... See, the issue was with the Endless... I just did some more testing off camera. The issue with the Endless was that it was activating the first wave again, but that wave was set to is finished the first time you played it. So the error was, when it was going into Endless, when it was switching the active wave, it was not being reset. So if you just add the .reset here, then Endless works fine. And then you can sit there and play the same waves over and over and over again if you want to. So now that that bug is fixed, you can leave Endless to true if you want, or the actual intention is to keep it on false for the forest map. So that is the issue with the maps not being finished. Now let's look at the actual tower upgrade process. So as I mentioned, when we upgrade a tower, we are getting our money taken away. It is displaying correctly. It's incrementing the number of money we put into the tower. We are just not getting the actual upgrade process to happen. So let's look at the tower class, and let's look at the upgrade method there. So it does have a level up, and it does work correctly. If we scroll down, we should have a upgrade here. So total cost, so we are getting the cost, but we're not actually leveling up. Level plus equals level, or level is equal to level plus 1. I just do it this way. I don't use a plus equals in case you want to do some additional logic here as well. Now, what caused this? You have to remember when you build your game, you have to remember to check for the appropriate level. That's being checked in the session. You can leave it to the actual tower itself to check the level, and if you want to do multiple checking as well, you can if you want to. I decided to look at it a step farther back. When you press a button, it calls the session whoever signs up for that event. In this case, the session upgrade tower method signed up for the upgrade tower button. So I chose it on that level to check for the level. If the level is not... See, I did that because we take the money away and we also update the money display in this session. So I didn't do it just in the upgrade method. I did it here because, we don't want our money taken away when we can't actually upgrade, so that's why I did it in this method. So at the tower level, if we can upgrade, which means if we increment the level by 1, is that still less than the max level? If it is, we can still upgrade, and we can call the upgrade. Now, if you want to do some additional checking here as well, you can. You just have to be careful on that to make sure, if you're accidentally calling it somewhere else in the engine, which I know I'm not, so I can leave it there. Okay, so that's what the issue was. The level was just not being incremented correctly. So now if we press F5, and then let's run our game and check it out. We already know sound's working, so that doesn't really matter. Okay, so we place the tower. Let's cancel that. Let's click the tower. We can upgrade or sell. Let's look at basic tower 1 and look at its stats. Let's upgrade. Alright, and it hits for 24. Let's upgrade again. Now it hits for 36. So it looks like we are set. Let's increase the speed and let's see what happens. Wave 1 of 2, health is 20, so 20 lives. Next wave, Let's buy another tower. And again, if you think this is too powerful or too much of a attack radius, that's all in the tower's XML. You know, I just built the engine, and I still have a breakpoint here. I just built the engine for you guys to work with. If something's not right in your game, you know, you provide the XML, or I provide you the XML for the finished result. So that's where it comes down to game balancing. You know, games like MMOs, World of Warcraft and Star Wars The Old Republic and other MMOs that are constantly always doing class balancing. So you just have to be aware of that. Play your game several times, see, oh, is this tower too powerful for this map? The difficulty is set to 1, so it's pretty easy, but is it still too powerful? Is the attack radius way too large? If it is, you can go into your XML and change the upgrade statistics, which is, oh, that's the actual map, not the tower XML. So if we look at the towers, basic tower, let's look at the upgrade statistics. So we do see the radius does increase by 1. So maybe that's too much. Maybe you want some additional functionality in the engine that I don't provide. Maybe you want the radius increase to only happen once every 2 levels. So you upgrade once, the radius doesn't increase. You upgrade another time, it does increase. Upgrade the 3rd time, it does not increase. Upgrade the 4th time, it does increase. So maybe you want that functionality. You can extend the engine if you want to. You can extend the game if you want to. You can, you know, your health, is the damage increasing too much? Is the speed increasing too much? All these things are gameplay balancing issues that can be, you know, determined during your testing phase. Alright, so I just started the next map so I can verify the new tower, the poison tower. And that looks correct, so everything looks fine. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to test what happens if you die. So I'm going to sell these towers and let the enemies go through the process of, you know, killing me. So my health is decreasing, so that's good. And now let's keep an eye on that. So the next wave should be the one that will end up killing me. So when my health reaches a negative number, you know, if I have a health of 0, that means I have no lives left, so I can't lose any more. So when I reach a negative number, it should display the game over screen, and let's see if that'll actually work. Zero, game over. Play again. Oh, that's going past the edge of the button. So if we want to fix that, you can just increase the size of the button, or just change the word of it, decrease the font, or whatever you want. I'm going to leave that for now. That's just an issue with that, of the button size. So not a game-breaking issue. So I'm going to play again, and let's select the snow. Let's test the bomb tower. So the bomb tower is an AoE tower. I'm going to increase the speed, and then I'm going to do some additional towers here. And then a poison tower when I get the money. So as this implementation of the game engine, it does not display the AoE area. I plan to have that fixed in a later version. But we'll know if it works when we get to the 20 slow ants. That should be a lot of ants. Oh, we know it worked there because it attacked both of them. So now that the music's working fine, it just switched to a different song. That's another thing I wanted to test. I'm not going to do every little bit of testing here. You'll probably want to test for hours, which you probably don't want to have me sit here testing the game for hours. But you basically do what I'm doing here. Play the game, see if you can break it. So that's a poison tower, it's green. I can upgrade when I get 75. So no poison working, it's doing dot damage over time. It attacks for a big chunk of 18 points, and then I think it does 10. So it does 1 every second for a total of 10 seconds. So the bomb tower is working. So let's upgrade the poison tower. Now I'm continuing this because I want to test the boss as well. The boss wave. The last one, the 5 ice brutes. Which, I'm just sitting here doing that. I should probably prepare for that boss wave. And again, this goes back to my discussion of game balancing. Look at how much money I have. So that's up to you what you want to do. Alright, I'm going to let that go for a little bit. And I'm just going to upgrade this one. So the whole idea behind this, when I made it, was to give you a nice game engine to use. You know, the XML, you can provide the damage you want. You can provide how much money you give for each kill. I did not bother doing the load. Okay, so we know that the audio is working for the boss because it has a different sound. So if you want to do all that load, the balancing, testing, and all that stuff, okay, so the boss wave does use the error color of the map, which is red, so that's working well. That's working well. We have 3 towers. Their icons are right. Everything's right. That's Bomb Tower 2, AoE Bomb Tower. I upgraded this one to about 5. Okay, so now we finish that. We go back to the level selection screen for now. Alright, so it looks like all the bugs are fixed. We just had 2 bugs, which is pretty incredible for... Well, I already had the finished one, so I did most of the bug checking. It was just issues copying the code from my finished result to a tutorial format. So there you go. There is your finished result. Just a couple bugs we found during our process. And one of them I didn't bother changing. You can do that. That was the game over screen where it said play again. where the question mark was going past the edge of the menu entry button. What I did is I just changed that to, instead of saying play again, is on the my version. On the finished result of the game, let's see, there's a screen, game over screen. I just called it again question mark. If you want to do that, go to the game over screen, and instead of play again, I just deleted the word play in the space. Okay, so that is it for this tutorial, and that is it for the Tower Defense series. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned some stuff about checking for bugs. I'm really glad that worked out, because I wanted to do that. I always want to do that at the end of a big game series like this, is to, you don't just create your code and then distribute the game. You want to do some testing. And of course, you've seen games where even they give you the game and it still has a load of bugs. I remember in Assassin's Creed 1, at the very last level, you go down a hill, and when you first entered that hill, the entire floor in front of you was it displayed correctly, but when you walked over it, you fell through it, and you fell through the end of the world. And then you died. And then when you came back, there were two of you. So even big game companies miss out on a couple bugs here and there. But as a game developer, it's a pretty good idea to, once you finish your coding, to play the game. Play it. Not only to find bugs, but to do the balancing, which I did not do for this series because I did this for the engine, and the game itself is just a demonstration of the engine. I didn't actually create the game as an actual game. It's just, here's the engine, this is what it can do. Play the game, that's what it can do. But if you want to turn this into an actual game, you want to play it a lot, so you know if it's balanced correctly. You're not getting too much money. The towers are not being overpowered. You set up the difficulty levels appropriately and that kind of thing. So I hope you enjoyed this series. We learned a lot of things from the previous one, like how to use an existing engine. This is the game series. How to use an existing engine, which we built in the engine tutorial series. How does the user interface work and all that type of stuff. How to create events for, the session events. When the map is finished, it'll throw an event. What do you do with that event? And that kind of thing. How do you create a nice level selection screen? So, compared to the Space Shooter tutorial, I think this one's pretty incredible. We now have sound, we now have music, we have a level selection screen, we have an entire built-in user interface with a UI framework. We have the map, and then we have the command info bar that's on the right side, and then we have the wave info bar that was at the bottom. Those are the three. That's a framework for the user interface. Alright, so that is it for this series. I hope you enjoyed it. Next series will probably be a Windows 8 game using C# and XAML, and we're probably going to do a board game or a card game. I'm thinking maybe a Sudoku type of thing. Not something... It's going to be something simple because we don't have a lot of power on that. Now, the game after that will go into actual DirectX and build a Windows 8 game that way. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this series, and I'll see you next time.